Hey there, it's Kevin Ward with Yes Masters Real Estate Success Training, and I'm answering a question that I got from one of my coaching members this morning by email, and I felt like this is something that would be beneficial for a lot of agents to know about. So here's the situation. It's an agent in Beverly Hills, California, and she just took a new listing, and I'm just going to share with you exactly what her question is. She said, I have a listing that just went into the MLS yesterday. It was an expired that expired 3 different times last year. The homeowner never got offers over $1 million. With only 5 hours being active on the MLS yesterday, I received a written offer for over $1 million. The homeowner is very happy, but wants to counter for a little more. Aha, there's no surprise, because sellers always want more. Now, we'll talk about this, but one, the issue is, are they wanting more because the house is worth more, or are they just going to get greedy? And you got to deal with both of those. We'll talk about that in a minute. So she said, my broker is telling me I need to be fair with my client and wait for more offers because the property has not had an open house yet, and I received this offer very quickly. The offer only has 2 days left, and it's 50% cash, which means they're going to make a 50% down payment, 50% cash down payment, which basically means we got a great buyer here in our hands, and it is the best offer these sellers have ever seen. But they want more. It's brand new on the market. What should we do? Well, you want to get the best terms and price for your client, absolutely. So how do you deal with that? Well, the broker says you need to be fair with your client and wait for more offers. And the broker is right, and the broker is wrong. Here's what I mean. The broker is right, and you want to be fair with your client, which means you want to get them the best results. But the broker is wrong in assuming that the way that you're fair with your seller is to wait for more offers. Now, that may be the best scenario, but it could be the absolutely wrong scenario. So, a couple of things I don't know, and this is just in the email she didn't tell me. One, I don't know if the offer is above list price or not. So if the offer is above list price, it's a little different than if it's below list price. If the offer is below list price, so let's say it's listed at $1.2 million, and the offer came in at $1.1 million. So $1.1 million is the offer, $1.2 million is the list price. Well, it's very simple to counter for the sellers to counter and say, we like your offer, it's a great offer, however, it's brand new on the market, and so the seller at this moment is not willing to come down from their list price right now. So the seller is countering at $1.2 million, and you always counter in writing. Don't ever counter verbally. You counter in writing. So if the seller is actually making a counter, when you got one offer and the seller is actually countering, fill it out on whatever your form is in your state. You put in the counter $1.2 million, and you put the counter in, and any other changes, terms, or whatever that need to be changed, and then you send it back over. But the key is that you send it back over with communication to the other agent. Now, here's the keys. Communication is everything. Number one, communicating with your seller, and number two, communicating with the other agent. So here's how that works. The first thing is you want to communicate with your seller. This is where the broker tells you need to be fair with your client and wait for more offers. Well, one, it's pretty risky when you're making that decision for the seller and saying, well, it's the only offer, so I think we should wait for more. It's the first offer. We've only been on the market for 1 day. I think we should wait for more offers. Well, what happens now if the buyers with this 50% cash down offer decide to walk because they don't like the fact that their offer is being shopped, and then you don't get another offer for another month, how's your seller going to be liking you now? So here's the key: communicating with your seller. Your job is to educate and lead your seller. Now, here's what I mean by that. Your job is to educate them by explaining to them all the options and the pros and cons of each option. So here's our options. We can counter, and if we do, here's the scenarios. We can accept the offer as it is. Here's what that means, that was pretty straightforward. If we counter, here's what that means. Or we could just wait. And if we wait, we can either tell the buyers or we can ignore the buyers. And if we ignore them, they're going to get ticked off real soon and leave, or we can communicate with them and hope they don't leave. So you're educating the sellers and then helping them see the options and see what's the best way to go by leading them. But always leave the final decision to the seller. You're not the decision maker. You're the agent. You represent them to advise them and educate them and lead them, but your job is to educate them and let them make the final decision so that if it doesn't go right, they're not blaming you. Does that make sense? Now let's say they say, well, you lay out the options, and they say, well, which way is the best? What should we do? Well, if it were me, here's what I would be thinking. I would be thinking, okay, let's say we don't accept the offer and we counter. Here's what I would probably do is I would probably counter at this, and here's what could happen. Now I would be willing to take that risk, and if they walk, they walk. But that would be what I would do. Is that okay? Is that what you guys would think would be the best to do? Well, I think that's what we want to do. Okay, cool. So if they do walk, if the worst case scenario happens, are you going to be okay with that? Because that's a possibility. Well, you think it's the best thing to do? Well, it's what I would do. I don't know what's best because I don't have a crystal ball. But I feel like it's probably a safe way to go. But again, there's always a little bit of risk because you don't know what those buyers are going to do. But it's what I would do. Okay, cool. Then let's do that. Okay, cool. Now what you've done is you've advised them, and yet you've made sure that they are aware of the risk of the downside, and they have already acknowledged that if the downside happens, they're willing to live with it. Does that make sense? So if the offer is below list price, it's pretty simple to counter it. And with the counter, now you communicate to the other agent. Here's where communication is the key with the other agent. You just let them know, hey, this seller loves your offer. Now we send the counter with a phone call and say, I just talk to their agent, say, hey, buyer's agent, the seller, we got your offer. The seller likes it. It's not quite what they're looking for. They still obviously want a little bit more because it's brand new on the market and it's $100,000 below what they're asking for. So they're sending a counter for this. I don't want to muddy the waters. The buyers like your house. The sellers like your buyers. The buyers look like great buyers, and I've explained that to my sellers. However, because it's brand new on the market, we have an open house scheduled this Saturday and Sunday, and the sellers are just not willing to come down yet on their price. So if your buyers like it and they want to accept that offer, that's awesome. Just let me know what we need to do next. And then I've communicated with the other agent in a respectful way, and I've not in any way made the buyer feel disrespected or that the sellers are being unrealistic. So that's that scenario. Now let's say that the house is listed at let's say the house is listed at $1 million because they never got an offer above $1 million. So let's say the house is listed at $1 million and the offer comes in at $1.05 million. If the offer comes in over list price, it's very difficult to counter and ask for more because you already said, the seller's already said, hey, we'll take $1 million for it, and then the offer comes in 5 hours for $1.05 million, and now the sellers get greedy and go like, well, that's not enough. We want more. We want 1.1. And if you just go back and counter way above list price, buyers are typically going to get upset and leave. Now, not necessarily, but it's possible. How do you get an even higher offer? Well, multiple offers is your leverage to do that. So let's say that it's listed at $1 million. The offer comes in at $1.05 million, and the seller still wants more, but the offer says this offer is if the offer is not accepted or countered within 48 hours, it's null and void. We got to move on this. So we're waiting until this weekend. What do we do? How do we not lose the buyer? And here's how you don't lose the buyer. Communication. Communicate with your seller. Say, here's the different options. If we leave the buyer hanging until the weekend's open houses, there's a chance we'll lose them. Are you okay with that? Or you can accept the offer. If you accept the offer, you know you're getting $1.05 million. And here's the scenario in that. It's the best offer you've had at having the house on the market 4 times now, and this is the best offer. So here's the different scenarios. So here's another option, is we can wait till this weekend, have the open house, and here's what we'll communicate to the buyer, is I'll let the buyer's agent know we got their offer, your sellers like it. The sellers like it. However, they've already scheduled an open house for this weekend, and because it's brand new on the market, they want to make sure have time to make sure it's fully exposed to all the buyers in the market, so all the buyers know about it, and just see if they can potentially get a higher offer. And then you tell the other agent, you know how sellers are; they always want more, right? So my seller has decided that they're not willing to accept your buyer's offer yet. So if your buyer, if they're willing to wait, which I would recommend, because who knows, if we don't get any offers, then the seller is, probably going to accept your offer. Now, here's the other thing. Or if your buyer wants to come back with an offer that my seller can't refuse before this weekend, before the open house, then my seller's open to that as well, and we could probably make a deal. And what my seller's indicated to me, and you can do this in writing or with a counter or just verbally, say my seller's indicated that if we get an offer, if you get the offer up like at 1.1, they're ready to pull the trigger and be done. And now you're giving the buyer and the buyer's agent information. You're making them informed, and you're giving them opportunities. They can hold it, stay firm at $1,050,000, or they can raise their offer. It's already above list price, but it's up to you guys. If they want to raise it and get the house for sure, they can do that, or they can wait and take a chance of losing the house if they want to stick at $1,050,000. But if that's their best and highest offer, we're totally cool with that. And if we don't get any other offers this weekend, then I'm definitely going to be recommending that my seller take that offer or whatever. So the key is that you're communicating with your seller and educating them on all the pros and cons, all the different options, and letting them make the final decision, and that you're communicating with the other agent and the buyer so they know what's going on and they don't feel like they're being shopped. If they feel like they're being shopped or ignored or jerked around, the buyer loses interest very quickly, and then they get offended next, and then they walk next. And obviously you don't want that to happen. But when you educate and you communicate and you keep everybody up to date with what's going on, and you let them know, and you're very straightforward about it, here's what my seller has decided to do, you can say, you know how sellers are, then the other agent can communicate to their buyer and keep their buyer at the table. And when you use those skills and keep the lines of communication open, you get better results for your seller, and you keep deals going, and you get more deals closed.